Hello, everyone. Welcome to Transition Awareness Breathing. Thank you for joining me, and I want to introduce you to a special guest on my show today. I think you're going to be really excited. This is Mr. Nick Hendrix,
Hey, everybody.
and I'm gonna give Nick a chance to tell you a little bit about himself, and but I'll give you a little bit of a clue. We're going to talk a little bit about communication, and not just communication, is maybe the benefits of communication and how to communicate, because Nick is a cybersecurity officer.
Engineer, close enough. Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Nick, for coming on my show.
No problem.
You want to tell the listeners
Sure.
and viewers a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So yeah, I said my name is Nick Hendrix. I'm a native of San Antonio, which is where beautiful San Antonio, Texas, where we're sitting right now. I am, as she mentioned, a cybersecurity engineer. I specialize in the security of the cloud and automating that. I could talk about it all day, but I won't bore you. A father of 3 kids, happily married, and a Cub Scout leader as well. So got a pretty full plate. 7-year-old, 9-year-old, 14-year-old will be 15 next week, and they all present unique challenges. So looking forward to talking a little bit about it.
Yeah, so exciting. A little bit more, Nick didn't mention that um, Nick children goes to the same school that my children have go to and have gone to, and one day a few weeks ago, we were volunteering, and I just admire. Not many dads volunteer for PTO stuff. I mean, usually you see a lot of the moms there, but I just give you a high five on volunteering and making yourself known and supporting your children and your school, because it means so much.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm sure the PTO appreciates us for sure. But we were talking, and we got on the topic of communication, and how we talk to our children and people, and um, yeah, we're just going to be a little bit frank here. A lot of times when I'm teaching, some children kind of slip and say a few I call them trash words, curse words, whatever you want to say. And to my surprise, you were saying that's not a surprise. And so Nick shared how he is parenting his family, you and your wife, parenting your family in a total different structure than how you were.
Oh, yes.
As far as communication. And I thought that was such a great link with when I found out you were a cybersecurity engineer. Gosh, it makes a lot of sense to me. Um, Communication is you can't see it,
Right.
but the effects of it.
It's everything we do.
There's
a layer of it to everything.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from sitting there and reading a book to yourself, but even that, you're communicating with your own brain. Like the messaging is still essential to the experience.
Yeah.
So this is kind of essential to being a human being.
And for and how we give our brains information, the positive information or negative information, yes. or if we give our brain information that is fearful,
yes, negative,
and how we respond to that, as parents and as professionals, it's so important to kind of break that down. So maybe you want to share a little bit. You can go into as much depth or non-depth as you like, but about what we were talking about, how you were raised and how that difference is.
Talk a little bit about my journey with that.
Okay.
So as I said, I grew up here. One of the unique situations about my upbringing was my father was much older than my mother, 25 years her senior. He was 62 when I was born. So he was a member of an entirely different generation than all of my, fellow kids in school and friends. And as such, he had a different parenting style, or lack of style, however you want to frame it. But in the way he was raised, you just kind of did what your parents told you, and your opinions and your personality weren't that important. Like, it wasn't something the parent was particularly engaged in. There's like, I send you to school and you figure it out and don't bother me. And then he was also an alcoholic. so that made it a challenge as well. So when there was communication, probably 3 out of 4 times it was negative. You know,
That's a high percentage.
yeah, he wasn't. I mean, he was older. He had some health problems. He had some chronic pain. Drank a lot. He had a even rougher background with his mom. Well, at one point in middle school, her alcoholism got so bad he'd come home to her passed out on the floor. A few times she'd vomited herself, and
Oh my goodness.
so it's he was making an incremental change, and I give him credit for that. I don't want to demonize my dad. He could he done a better job, sure, but none of us are coming from perfect backgrounds. So as long as we're trying to improve. But anyway, that gave me some pretty heavy bags to carry around, right? Because as I was learning what communication meant, it was yelling and negativity and anger and frustration, and these were what I was sort of saturated in. The bright point was my mom. In spite of all that, somehow she manages to maintain a positive attitude 99.9% of the time. She is a superhero.
Mm.
And I don't know where I would end up if it wasn't for her. Because yes, I had all of that negative interaction and him yelling at my mom and just this big ugliness. But when I could be with my mom, it's a different situation. She was nurturing, loving, caring, brought people around. So that was a nice balance. But that negative, it's so powerful and it's so easy. That's the thing that was always a challenge. Is it was as soon as the situation was less than ideal, the easiest thing to do is to get frustrated, right? And then I go right back into that mode of being angry and kind of shutting myself off. It's the world's fault. That's
blaming.
Yes, exactly. The blame, the excuses, all of these things are things that I kind of had to carry with me into adulthood. And then when I got there, I realized, wow, these are really holding me back. Like I wasn't getting the things that I wanted to get done. I didn't get college finished. I dropped out, went through a few relationships, a few different jobs, and at the same time, never really looking at my perspective as a cause of my problems. So yeah, as I've gotten older and as I've matured, I've learned to look around that and be like, okay, that was then, right? Here's all this negativity that I experienced. Rather than let that hold me back, I can grow from it, right? And so I just try to keep that perspective, and it's still there. It never goes away. If something less than ideal happens, there's a certain little part of me that wants to lose it, right? That wants to get upset. But as I've grown and as I've tried, that voice gets smaller and smaller. So now I'm able to focus on the things that work.
At what point, maybe when you were little or teen, did you realize that you were in an environment of a lot of negativity, or
It
did
was
or did you
prob,
realize it?
I mean, it came on slowly over time, I would say. And then there was a situation when I was in middle school where the family just split in half, where my mom and my sister were like one faction, and my dad and I have 3 brothers and sisters from his previous marriages, and they were sort of over there, and I was stuck in the middle because I didn't want to pick sides. I thought they were both full of it, even at 13. But then, so that's kind of when it really put things in perspective. Of, wow, this isn't normal. I didn't realize it wasn't normal until the walls started crumbling, and then it kind of started to occur to me. And that's both a good and a bad thing, I think, in high school because you're moving through some pretty rough waters
Yeah.
already. And then that doesn't make the journey any easier, but it did give me that, once again, that perspective. Because at least, like, I could say, okay, maybe the horizon's over there. The water's choppy, but let's try going that way. And that's what I've been doing. Like, in spite of setbacks, just keep trying. Just,
In middle school, you're going through so many changes,
yes.
and not only changes with your body, changes with relationships.
Oh, everything.
You can't understand things, and
I changed schools as well.
Oh,
I've been in the
wow.
same school my whole life up till 7th grade, and then I switched to I was private school, same group of kids, and then switched to public school at 7th grade. So it was tons of
Big
changes.
changes.
Yeah.
Big changes. So, it, I was sharing with Nick some research that um, I was reading. I sent you a few of the links,
Yeah.
and I'll put it in the links in the description for you guys. But I was really surprised. I kind of, in the shadows, I understand what the rationale is, but in the forefront, it doesn't make any sense. So anyway, these these articles, these journals had mentioned how when we talk about negativity and communication, that cursing is really healthy, and that in the especially in the world of psychology, that they point out that uh, when someone is using a lot of curse words, that you're really, that they're really being honest with you. Um, that's exactly that's the expression that
Yeah.
that's exactly the expression that I had. And so I just disagree.
I agree
I
too.
just totally disagree. And you can do research on a lot of stuff and improve just about anything. And so I thought that I don't know if it's being rebellious or whatever or challenging. I just think that we need to kind of explore that a little bit,
For sure.
because um, uh, in my background as a nurse and being in the military, in the military there's a lot of swearing.
Oh, yes.
But what I found out that one of my responsibilities was to help my team learn how to communicate with each other without a lot of swearing, because when people are using a lot of bad words, I have no idea what they want.
Right.
you
Yeah.
know I see you're upset, or I see you're frustrated, but that does not tell me what you
Mm-mm.
need or what you want or what you desire.
You're not telling yourself what you need either. Yeah.
Exactly. And so in the medical field, and if you have an emergency and somebody is swearing, they really just need to leave the room, because
Yes.
they're not really being helpful.
No.
And it shows that somebody is having a meltdown. That's how I see cursing and swearing. Somebody's so frustrated they can't get their words together, and so they're having a meltdown. So you need to take a break and then come back when you can talk. And that's how I summarize it.
Totally.
And I cannot see how that is positive.
Well,
So,
I see both sides of the argument. I think I
mhm,
kind of, it's one of those, honestly, limitation of language with
mhm,
English, whereas
mhm,
things can mean multiple things. I see two things there. One, sure, if you're cursing, you are projecting your inner state, right? There's some frustration in there. You don't understand something doesn't feel right,
mhm,
and there's an outburst, and it's these curse words or whatever it is. And so yes, okay, I as an observer now see your genuine emotional state. I got that. Well, what value is that in solving the problem? It's like, okay, it creates a moment of empathy, perhaps, but other than that, it's just a barrier, right?
mhm,
Because now, like you said, it's subjective. Like I don't, okay, I get they're frustrated, but what's next, right? Like you're saying, what do they need?
mhm,
But the other half of that um, is we're giving ourselves an excuse to be frustrated when we're cursing
mhm,
because we're just reacting as opposed to reflecting, right? So if I feel like cursing, if I feel like going there, I make a change, take a step back, take a breath, think about something else, whatever it is, because that tells me that I'm going down the wrong path.
mhm,
And if I just give in to the frustration and the swearing, I'm just going to keep going down that road.
mhm,
So to me, it's like a guidepost. It's like, okay, if you have the insight and control enough to stop yourself when that happens, either before or after, I mean, it's okay to occasionally curse. We're all human,
mhm.
everything in moderation. Um, that can be the indicator that, hey, I need to take a step back and look in and figure that out. Don't just keep running to that because you're going to be stuck in a rut.
Yeah. And as children, I think, and I don't know how much was in your life coming up.
Plenty. Yeah.
Um, it you're not you may be cursing at the children, and the children may see mommy or daddy is upset, or maybe it's such a norm in the household that everybody's
Yeah.
wearing. And how are the needs being met?
They're not.
Is it the choice of words? I'm not sure. Is it a different language? I'm not sure. But um, a lot of times, what I found out when I usually dealt with teenagers coming in the military, their self esteem was very low.
Yes.
They felt like they could not do anything right, that they were failures, and they would use descripting words that they used that was put upon them. And after a while, I got kind of angry at the parents for bringing up their children. I mean, they're 18, 19 years old, and so I just felt like it was my mission to show that young adult, that teen, that they are important and they
Yes.
do have something to contribute, you know, and
Yeah,
that they are good, and you know what, them getting in the military was the first best step that they have made, and we're
I
going to
agree.
do this together, and I'm going to help you, and you know what, but we're going to learn how to communicate without a bunch of swear words. Man, I'm so proud of them. You know, that's kind of been my experience. And so I think, you know what, I think that's what caught my eye with that article and how much I
Yeah,
disagree with it. You
there's
know,
a lot to that topic.
yes, yes. How about you?
Yeah, so I mean, as you mentioned, yeah, I grew up with a lot of the swearing.